Born on April 4, 1931, to Walpola mutilage George Hercules Wijerathne and Rosalind Maria Senanayake, General Ranjan Wijerathne received his primary and secondary education at S. Thomas's College, Girathalawa and Mtilavinia, where he excelled in athletics and all forms of sports, debating and agriculture. After his schooling, during which he was awarded the Dias Memorial Prize for Agriculture, he took to planting as a career and served as a working planter for nearly 20 years before being appointed in 1968, manager of Demodara Group, the largest tea plantation in Sri Lanka. In this period and in the 10 years following, he was chairman of the Ceylon Planters Society, chairman of the Planters Association of Ceylon, chairman of the agency section of the Planters Association, chairman of the Colombo Tea Traders Association, vice president of the Ceylon Institute of Planting, member of the Ceylon Tea Propaganda Board, and member of the Tea Research Institute of Ceylon. He rose through the hierarchy of the private sector plantation management, ending up as director/consultant of Whittles Estates and Agencies Limited, Gordon Fraser and Company, Limited, Bosanquet and Scrine Limited, the leading British company group in Sri Lanka, where he served during his entire private sector career. In 1977 he was invited by President J. R. Jayewardene to serve the government, firstly, by reorganizing the Lake House Group of newspapers as its director operations, and in 1978 as Secretary, Ministry of Agricultural Development and Research, and as chairman of the Agricultural Development Authority. In the mid-80s, he was simultaneously chairman of the Agricultural Development Authority, Sri Lanka State Plantations Corporation, Land Reform Commission, the giant Pelwata Sugar Company Limited, and Rajarata Food Grain Processing Company, Limited, thus reaching the management of some of the largest public sector plantations in Asia. Besides these posts, he held numerous other positions as chairman, commissioner, deputy commissioner and member of government organizations in food, research, training, rural credit, foreign investment, essential services, national resettlement and rural development. Among his numerous posts were those he held in the Ceylon Boy Scouts movement and the Ceylon Estate Employers Federation. In 1984, Ranjan Wijerathne was commissioned in the rank of lieutenant colonel to the Sri Lanka Army Volunteer Rifle Corps, which was established to provide security to the plantation sector. As an individual trained in agriculture and in administration, with experience in both the agriculture and private sectors, his entry into active full-time politics took place in 1988 when he was appointed chairman of the United National Party, and later as General Secretary of the party. The 3 brief years that followed his assassination on March 2, 1991, was the most remarkable period of this political leader's life.
Though far from being a leftist, Wijerathne earned the admiration of the left, which bore the brunt of the JVP's terror. He was straight-talking, so that all knew where they stood. Even the SLFP, which in 1989 came under attack from the JVP, felt grateful to Wijerathne. By comparison, the left were wary of Premadasa's deviousness, and particularly so when he tried to make deals by releasing JVP detainees in custody who then went hunting for the left. This widespread admiration for Wijerathne was one reason for the silence in the South, when from June 1990, Wijerathne licensed prodigious massacres in the Northeast. There is also reason to believe that Wijerathne did not approve of death squads maintained by UNP ministers during the JVP insurgency using personnel from the security forces. For him, even in the killing business there should be order, that is, all activities under the Ministry of Defense. Dig Ujigampala was the kind of operator after Wijerathne's own heart. Ujigampala's work in the North Central Province and then Central Province can be described as straight police action. The vice and corruption under UNP patronage that became so prominent in Colombo after the JVP insurgency would have irked Wijerathne. He formed the Bureau of Special Operations, BSO, with DIG Premadasa Ujigampala as its head and started cracking down on these activities. This received a very favorable response from the public. But in doing so, Wijerathne was challenging the very section of the UNP that formed Premadasa's power base. Had it gone to its logical conclusion, Wijerathne would have become undisputed leader of the UNP. With Wijerathne behind him, Ujigampala went against dens of vice using methods of the kind for which he had become well known.
His official residence at Horton
a car bomb
Place
ended Wijerathne's earthly sojourn. Wijerathne's death was quickly followed by speculation about foul play from inside the government. The Tigers were blamed of carrying out the attack, although they denied it. But the question being asked was whether they acted alone. There was widespread skepticism about whether the police would do an honest investigation into the assassination. Where the security forces were concerned, they lost the one man in the government whom they trusted. They were now faced with the prospect of having to fight and die for leaders whom they saw as being capable of any skullduggery to attain their ends. From March 1991 to the end of 1995, the security forces did nothing decisive to break the deadlock in the northeast. There was no effective defense minister for the rest of the UNP government's term. Life in Colombo had an appearance of normality. But the government had died. The city was rife with tales of intrigue. In the ministries, men went about their chores as sleepwalkers. The government had become incapable of any initiative to address the country's pressing problems. The iron moral laws that govern the destinies of men cannot be breached with impunity.